I will now give the floor to Greg Bedard to give us some of what he's hearing about Bill Belichick. Very interesting, Greg. You've heard some chatter around the team. You've heard some chatter about Belichick's future. Fill the people in and give us your thoughts.
So, just to give people a little bit of background is, part of my normal duty, especially, when things look a little bit dicey around the Patriots, trying to figure out what's going on. And really the genesis of it was, doing a column on, how things have gone so poorly on offense and, but also checking in like, hey, what's going on? How's the, how important is this game? Stuff like that. I was just surprised, and I'm not sure quite what to make out of it. And I'll sort of give you my prediction at the end here after our sort of rolling discussion about this. But the bottom line is this. In discussions with people this week, I have been surprised at the way they've spoken sort of about Belichick, his future, this game. It's not exactly what they're saying. It's sort of, what they're not saying. Which has been sort of surprising to me. And I know that sounds confusing, but people just got to trust me on this. But the bottom line is this, that people around the team, including some very good sources of mine who have never steered me wrong, have basically indicated that this Cardinals game on Monday night with the Patriots going out for their West Coast swing is among, if not the most important game of Belichick's career post Tom Brady. That if the Patriots don't win this game, then I think there is a serious question about whether Belichick is the future head coach of this team. Now, I'm not telling you it's going to happen. And in fact, I think that the Patriots will win on Monday night. I think they'll be competitive down the stretch, and I don't think it'll ever get to this point. But I think it's certainly worthy of discussion that this is almost a must-win on Monday night against the Cardinals as far as Belichick's concerned. And I think it's, you look at it in the team perspective, that if they don't win this game and then they're staying in Arizona and practicing for the week, and then they got to play Josh McDaniels and the Raiders on Thursday night. Sunday. I'm getting this latest schedule is throwing me for a loop. It's like every Thursday night, every night game they're playing. But now it's moved to Sunday afternoon. Things have a chance to go off the rails. And I think that Belichick needs a win here badly. And I think that he'll get it. But and we talked about this in October, Nick. I wrote about it in October.
Yep.
That Belichick had to get this thing back with the quarterback, especially back on the tracks for the rest of the season because the Crafts were watching. And they're still sort of in the same place at this moment. So a very interesting time for the Patriots. I did not expect to be talking about this. Again, I'm a little bit surprised that we are, but I think it's a worthwhile discussion at this point.
Well, obviously that's big. And again, I did not anticipate we'd be having this conversation on this day before this particular game. Let me ask you, do you think Belichick is aware of this? Do you think he has an idea? Is this something that Robert Kraft would discuss with him? Or is this something that, is more kind of ownership level, keeping an eye on him and he might not know how close to the edge he might be?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. My guess from knowing how things work at one Patriot place, I would think that number one, Belichick, of course, is extremely smart. So he knows, he reads the tea leaves better than anybody in the room. But I think that he's worried about just coaching his team. I don't think he's thinking about the future. I do think that he thinks he's earned enough goodwill to continue here beyond this season. But I don't think there have been any discussions, and Belichick's not the type of guy to really think about beyond just preparing his team for this week's game.
When we talked about it, I go back several weeks ago. I think it was October, like you mentioned. I had said at the time that if this team wins only 6 games, if they finished 6-11, then everything's on the table, including Belichick's future. At that point, he's had, more than enough time post Brady to figure things out. And if it's at 6-11 that bad, which I don't think it's going to be, I agree with you. I think they'll fight, and I think they'll be around 8 or 9 wins like I thought they would be before the season kicked off. But if it was 6-11, then anything's on the table and everything's on the table. And if it was 7 wins or more without a playoff visit, I would think that Kraft would tell Belichick, look, man, this is your last shot, right? You have to win a playoff game. You've got to win in the playoffs to continue here, because we're just not going to continue, being what we've been post Brady. Let me ask you this, Greg. At this point, after what we've seen this season and sitting at 6-6 now, getting ready for the Cardinals, do you think it's fair? Do you think it's justified that this game is as big as you've heard it could be for Belichick?
I don't know if I have an opinion on this, but let me just explain it this way. In my view, from talking to people, there's 2 big reasons why we're at this point now. Okay. From the ownership's perspective, certainly Belichick did unbelievable things here for a very long time. It's doing 6 Super Bowl titles, another 3 Super Bowl trips. I mean, it's just unbelievable success during the salary cap era. But look, I mean, this is a performance-based business. And in ownership's mind, I think, and no one has told me this directly, but I'm just, giving you what I think, reading the tea leaves from talking to people. 2 things. Number 1, Belichick has taken, if this season continues, if they end up with a losing record this year, which it looks like, I would say the odds are decent, at least 8-9, if not worse. That's why the Cardinals is a big swing game. I mean, if they win that game, then they're 7-6. Who knows what happens? If they lose, right, they're 6-7, and who knows? They could lose out and be 6-11 or 7-10. 3 big L's. Brady out the door while he's still good enough to win a lot, including coming back the other night. At the same week where the Kraft's head coach refused to go for it on 4th and 6 from his own 46-yard line with 12 minutes left in the game, down 3 scores. You kick a field goal there. You get it. You kick a field goal there at the least. You're in the same position that Brady was. About 6 minutes left, whatever, down 2 scores. And Brady's winning a football game, and the Kraft's head coach is saying he's trying to stay in the game by punting down 3 scores with 12 minutes. Again, what I said the other day, that's a fireable offense to me. So Brady going out the door, being pushed out the door basically by Belichick. The Krafts backing Belichick on that, backing the head coach. Now they've all lost on that. The spending, Krafts 2020, okay, fine. A reset. We understand resetting the cap. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to hit it. 2021, huge expenditure for the Krafts. You look at it now, 2 years out, not even close to the bang for the buck for everything that they did for this team. And then the third thing is the offense and Mac Jones. The regression of Mac Jones solely because of the coaching choices that Bill Belichick made. You put together those 3 L's, and I think the Krafts feel justified if things go poorly to pull the plug on Belichick. And the other factor to me, Nick, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think and again, no one has told me this directly. I'm not reporting anything. I haven't talked to any of the candidate, what have you. But I think that timing might have something to do with this as well. Guys like Sean Payton, Billy O'Brien, Brian Flores being available right now, all 3, and there could be more, but I'm just talking off the top of my head, 3 viable candidates for this team to get the team to another level, or at least succeed Belichick. If you're the Krafts, are you going to have another point in time where 3 candidates that you know that have certain talents that you feel comfortable with? Of course, we all know about Peyton. O'Brien is a guy who, in Seth Wickersham's book, there was, talk about O'Brien possibly, the Crafts possibly trying to get O'Brien in their back pocket in case Bill Belichick bolted during the whole Tom Brady stuff.
Right.
And then Brian Flores, of course, was here, very successful, black head coach, who I think would be of significance to the Crafts. So I think you combine all those things together, and you could sort of see why now the close of this season has become so important in this franchise's history.
The timing makes sense when you think about, as you just mentioned, who's available. And I'll add another link to this, kind of tying in your last point about Belichick in the three major L's with Mac Jones and how this offense has regressed. Number one, Bill O'Brien has a history with Mac Jones, understands Mac Jones. It would rather, it'd be rather obvious as to how that relationship could possibly work because of the offensive system that they've worked. Obviously Bill being the OC at Alabama and Mac being there prior to his drafting by the Patriots. And also, let's not forget Sean Payton in New Orleans, big time rumors, and it's been reported, and there really wasn't any pushback to this. The idea that Sean Payton wanted to move up in the draft to draft Mac Jones because he thought that he was kind of the perfect quarterback for his system. So if you're the Crafts and you're thinking of moving on from Belichick and you're thinking Mac Jones is our QB1, which you should still be thinking, folks, if you're thinking that, it's rather obvious, and it makes all the sense in the world why Bill O'Brien and Sean Payton would be at the top of your list, because then you could marry your head coach with your quarterback and try to get things right and fix that young man so you have a quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. Last question about this. The players, what do you think's going on? Do they have any idea? Do they have a kind of a sixth sense when it comes to coaches maybe being in trouble, and could that impact their play in any kind of way?
Look, you would love to say that players are robots and they're going to try their hardest and all this stuff. I've been around some teams, mostly actually just with the Dolphins. I was there. I covered Dave Wannstedt's final season when he got fired during the season, replaced by Jim Bates. I was there for the end of Nick Saban. Players know, and I'm sure it's different. I mean, it's Bill Belichick. They're probably not really thinking about it, but I'll just say, and I know nothing about this, and I'm not saying any players are doing this, but it's just from my experience covering the league in these situations, I think players do realize some things, and could there be some chatter around among them, especially on this road trip? That's why I think the Cardinals game is big, because if they lose this game and then they're all together for a week out in Arizona practicing before the Raiders game, so they start talking about do we really want this to continue and stuff like that. So, but here's the thing. My prediction is none of this happens. My prediction at the end of the day, even though I do think this is a precarious time, I think they beat the Cardinals. I think the Patriots find a way to have a decent end of the season. Could be 8-9, could be 9-8. And I think that Belichick is no idiot. He's honest about his team, and I think he's proactive to Robert Kraft after the season, saying, look, Robert, I made a mistake here. I own it. It's my fault. Don't blame Matt. Don't blame Joe. This is on me. This is how I'm going to fix it. I've already reached out to Bill O'Brien or somebody, and again, I'm not saying this has happened. There's been no contact among anybody or anything. But I think he'll be proactive, and I think he will continue on here as Patriots coach. But, you can see how this game on Monday night is sort of the swing game. If they go on national television and lose again, because I think they've lost, including the playoffs last year, I think they've lost 5 straight primetime games, at least 4 during the regular season. They haven't been close in a lot of them. If they lose to this Cardinals team, which is a freaking 3-ring circus on Monday night, things could get iffy.
Before we get into that game, I would also add that, Belichick has to feel like his legacy is on the line. at least to a point to some people. I don't believe that. Like, I believe he is the greatest coach that we've seen. I believe he's, his legacy is solidified, but to him, you don't want to go out that way. Like, you don't want to go out with a 7-win team, an 8-win team. You don't want to hobble to the finish line after what you've accomplished throughout your career. I still think he wants to prove to people that, he's not a result of Tom Brady and Tom Brady's greatness. And so if anybody has a lot invested in this, it's Bill Belichick. So I would just have to imagine that he, unless he's totally blinded by Matt Patricia love and the pencil in his ear, and, Joe Judge standing there doing, I don't know what the hell he's doing. I know he's quarterback's coach. I don't know. How's he helping Mac Jones as his mechanics go south and he's not playing well? I've got to imagine that Bill's like, I got to fix this. Like, this is a mess. Like, we all see the mess. He has to see the mess. No matter what he says publicly, he has to see the mess. He has to understand it's a debacle. He has to understand that things, and I'm talking big things, need to have some dramatic changes in this offseason. I agree with you about the team. I agree with you that Belichick will go to RKK because, I just don't know how he doesn't.